Captain Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the cargo manifest for the third time. The New Horizon was an old ship, but she was reliable. Jake had been running supplies between Earth colonies for 8 years now, and he knew every sound his ship made. Today felt different, though. Something was off. "Captain, we're getting a strange signal," called Lisa Hamilton from the communications station. She was his crew chief and had been with him for 5 years. Lisa never got excited about anything, so when her voice carried worry, Jake paid attention. "What kind of signal?" Jake asked, walking over to her station. The bridge was small and cramped, typical of civilian cargo vessels. 3 crew members could barely move around without bumping into each other. "It's a distress beacon, but not from any Earth ship. The frequency is completely unknown. Computer can't identify the source," Lisa said, pointing at her screen. Strange symbols scrolled across the display in patterns that made no sense. Tony Rodriguez looked up from his navigation controls. He was young, maybe 25, and still got nervous during unusual situations. "Captain, it's coming from the asteroid belt. About 2 hours away if we change course." Jake stared at the readings. They were supposed to deliver medical supplies to the mining station Beta 7. The miners were expecting them, and delays cost money. But someone was in trouble out there, and Jake had never been able to ignore a distress call. "Lisa, what do you think?" he asked Dot. She shrugged. "Could be pirates trying to lure us into a trap. Could be someone who really needs help. No way to know without getting closer." Tony shifted in his seat. "Captain, we're not a military ship. We have no weapons except for that old plasma cutter in the cargo bay. If it's trouble, we can't fight our way out." Jake knew Tony was right. The New Horizon was built for carrying cargo, not for combat. But something about the signal bothered him. It felt desperate, almost like crying for help. "Change course," Jake decided, "but keep our engines ready to run if we need to." 2 hours later, they found the source of the signal. It was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The ship was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It looked like it was made of crystal and metal twisted together in impossible patterns. Parts of it glowed with soft blue light, while other sections were dark and clearly damaged. "My God," whispered Tony. "What is that thing?" "Alien," Lisa said simply. "Has to be. No human technology looks like that." Jake felt his heart beating faster. In all his years of space travel, he had never encountered alien life. Earth scientists said it was possible, but no one had ever made contact before. "Are there life signs?" he asked. Lisa worked at her controls for several minutes. "Hard to tell. Their technology is so different from ours. But something is moving inside that ship. Could be life support systems, could be a person." The alien vessel was drifting without power. Holes in its hull showed where weapons had hit it. Whatever happened here, it had been violent. "Captain," Tony said quietly, "we should report this to Earth Command. This is way above our level. By the time Earth Command gets here, whoever is on that ship could be dead," Jake replied. "Can we dock with it?" Lisa studied her instruments. "Maybe. Their docking port looks similar to ours, just bigger." "I think I can make it work." Jake made his decision. "Do it. But everyone stays armed, and we go in together. If this goes bad, we retreat immediately." 30 minutes later, they had managed to connect the 2 ships. Jake wore his environmental suit and carried a heavy flashlight. Lisa had the medical kit, and Tony carried the plasma cutter just in case. The alien ship's corridors were strange. The walls curved in ways that hurt to look at, and the floor felt soft under their boots. Emergency lighting cast weird shadows that seemed to move on their own. They found her in what looked like a control room. She was lying on the floor, unconscious and bleeding from several wounds. Jake's first thought was how human she looked, despite her differences. She had 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face, even though her skin was pale blue and her hair was silver. She wore clothing that looked like it was made from liquid metal. Is she alive? Jake asked. Lisa knelt beside the alien woman and checked for vital signs. I think so. Her breathing is shallow, and she's lost a lot of blood. But I don't know anything about alien biology. The woman was beautiful, even injured. She looked young, maybe in her 20s by human standards. Something about her face suggested nobility, like she was used to being important. We can't leave her here, Jake said. Help me carry her to our ship. Captain, this could be dangerous, Tony warned. We don't know anything about her species. She could be carrying diseases, or she might be hostile when she wakes up. Jake looked down at the unconscious woman. She looked so small and helpless. Whatever had happened to her ship, she was a victim, not a threat. She's hurt and alone, he said. If we were in her position, I'd hope someone would help us. They carefully moved her to the New Horizons medical bay. Lisa did her best to treat the wounds using human medical supplies. It was mostly guesswork, but the bleeding stopped, and the woman's breathing became stronger. Jake sat beside her bed, wondering what he had gotten himself into. This was definitely not part of his original plan for the day. But looking at her peaceful face, he knew he had made the right choice. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight he had saved a life. Sometimes that was enough. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Terra's Pride, watching stars drift past the viewport. 20 years had changed him from a simple cargo captain into the leader of Earth's defense fleet. His hair was gray now, and lines around. His eyes showed the weight of command, but his hands were steady, and his mind was still sharp. The Terra's Pride was humanity's newest and most powerful warship. She was 5 times larger than his old cargo vessel, with weapons that could destroy, asteroids and shields that could withstand plasma storms. Jake was proud of her, but sometimes he missed the simple days of running supplies between colonies. Admiral, we have a problem, said Commander Ryan Clark, his second in command. Ryan was younger than Jake, maybe 40 years old, with the kind of serious expression that came from years of military service. He never spoke unless it was important. What kind of problem? Jake asked, turning away from the viewport. Long-range sensors are picking up ships at the edge of our space. Lots of ships. More than we've ever seen in one place. Jake felt his stomach tighten. How many ships? Ryan checked his tablet. Computer estimates over 300 vessels. They're big, Admiral. Much bigger than anything in our fleet. Major Kate Sullivan looked up from her intelligence station. She was Jake's best analyst, the kind of person who could spot trouble before it arrived. Admiral, the ship designs don't match anything in our database. These aren't pirates or rebels. This is something new. Jake walked to the main display screen. The computer had created a rough image of the approaching fleet based on sensor data. The ships were beautiful and deadly looking, with smooth curves and elegant lines that reminded him of something from long ago. Have they tried to communicate? He asked. Yes, sir. They sent a message about an hour ago. It was addressed specifically to you, Ryan said, handing Jake a communication pad. Jake read the message twice. It was formal and polite, but the words made no sense. Someone wanted to meet with him personally to discuss matters of great importance. They would arrive at Earth in 3 days and requested permission to send a diplomatic shuttle. This is strange, Jake said. Why would aliens want to talk to me specifically? I'm just a fleet admiral. They should be contacting our president or the United Nations. Kate brought up more data on her screen. Admiral, I've been analyzing their ships. The technology is advanced, maybe 50 years ahead of ours. If they wanted to attack us, we couldn't stop them. The news spread quickly through Earth's government. Jake found himself in meeting after meeting with politicians and military leaders. Everyone had opinions, but no one had answers. Defense Secretary Paul Turner was the most worried. He was a thin man with nervous hands who always expected the worst. "Admiral, this could be an invasion force. Maybe we should surrender before they attack." "We don't know what they want yet," Jake replied. "Let's not panic before we have facts." President Maria Santos was more calm. She had been in office for 6 years and had dealt with many crises. "Admiral Morrison, you're our most experienced officer. If they want to meet with you, then that's what we'll do. But be careful." 3 days later, the alien fleet arrived at Earth. They moved in perfect formation, like dancers following music that only they could hear. Their ships were even more impressive up close, shining in the sunlight like jewels. Jake took a small shuttle to the neutral meeting point, a space station between Earth and the Moon. Commander Clark and Major Sullivan came with him, along with a team of diplomats and translators. Everyone was nervous. The alien shuttle was a work of art. It looked like liquid metal, shaped into the form of a bird. When it docked with the space station, Jake felt his heart beating faster. This was the most important moment in human history. Airlock opened, and the alien delegation stepped through. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The leader was a woman with pale blue skin and silver hair, wearing robes that seemed to be made of starlight. She was older now, but he recognized her immediately. It was the princess he had rescued 20 years ago. She walked directly to Jake, ignoring the other humans in the room. Her eyes were the same color he remembered, like deep ocean water. "When?" She spoke. Her voice was soft, but carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Admiral Jake Morrison," she said, and her words carried a slight accent that made them sound like music. "I am Empress Zaralin of the Ethereal Empire. Do you remember me?" Jake stared at her, memories flooding back. A damaged alien ship, the unconscious woman bleeding on the floor, the decision to risk everything to save a stranger's life. "Princess," he said quietly. She smiled, and suddenly she looked young again. "Not princess anymore. Empress now. My father died 8 years ago, and I inherited his throne. I have spent the last decade searching for you, Jake Morrison." Commander Clark stepped forward. "Your Majesty, with respect, why are you here? Your fleet is making our people very nervous." Zaralin looked at him with patient eyes. "I am here because I owe Admiral Morrison a debt that can never be repaid. 20 years ago, he saved my life when he had no reason to help me. That act of kindness changed everything." Jake found his voice. "You don't owe me anything. Anyone would have done the same thing." "No," she said firmly. "Most would not. I have met many species in my travels, Admiral. Most care only for their own kind, but humans are different. You helped me because it was right, not because you expected reward." She gestured toward the viewport, where her massive fleet waited in space. "I rule an empire that spans 40 star systems. I command fleets that could conquer galaxies. But I learned the most important lesson of my life from a simple cargo captain who chose compassion over caution." Jake felt the weight of history in the room. "What happens now?" Zaralin's expression became serious. "Now, Admiral Morrison, I need your help. The galaxy faces a threat that could destroy us all, and humanity may be the key to stopping it." Empress Zaralin led Jake and his team to a conference room aboard the space station. The room had large windows that showed her massive fleet waiting in space. Each ship was beautiful and dangerous, like weapons made by artists. "What I am about to tell you must remain secret until we decide how to proceed," Zaralin said, taking a seat across from Jake. "The threat I mentioned comes from outside our galaxy." Major Kate Sullivan opened her tablet to take notes. "Outside our galaxy? How is that possible?" Zarlin touched a device on her wrist, and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed their galaxy as a spiral of stars, but something dark was moving along its edge. We call them the Devourers. They are machines, not living beings. They come from a galaxy that died long ago. Jake studied the display. The dark areas were spreading like a disease across the outer rim of their galaxy. What do they want? They consume all organic life, Zarlin said simply. Every plant, every animal, every thinking being. They break down living matter and use it to build more of themselves. They have already destroyed 6 civilizations on the galactic rim. Commander Ryan Clark leaned forward. How do you know all this? Because some people escaped before their worlds died. They brought terrible stories. Entire planets stripped bare in days. Billions of lives ended in hours. The Devourers don't negotiate. They don't communicate. They simply consume everything in their path. The hologram zoomed in to show the destroyed worlds. Jake could see dead planets, gray and lifeless, orbiting their stars like empty shells. How long do we have? At their current rate of expansion, they will reach the core worlds in 5 years. Earth will fall in 7 years, maybe 8. Jake felt cold despite the room's warmth. Your empire is powerful. Why can't you stop them? Zarlin's expression grew sad. We tried. 3 years ago, I sent my best fleet to fight them at the Kalar system. We had 200 ships, the finest warriors in the Empire. Only 12 ships returned. Kate looked up from her notes. What went wrong? Everything. The Devourers adapt to our weapons within minutes. They learn our tactics during battle and counter them immediately. Worse, they can convert captured ships to their side. Many of our vessels ended up fighting against us. Jake tried to understand the scope of the problem. If your empire can't defeat them, what makes you think anyone can? Alone, no single civilization can win. But together, working as one force, we might have a chance. That is why I need your help, Admiral Morrison. Ryan shook his head. With respect, Your Majesty, humanity's military is tiny compared to yours. We have maybe 50 warships total. What difference could we make? Zarlin smiled slightly. Commander Clark, do you know why I searched for Admiral Morrison for so many years? Because he saved your life? That was part of it. But more importantly, he showed me something I had never seen before. My people are advanced and powerful, but we think in terms of hierarchy and order. We expect everyone to know their place and follow rules. She gestured toward Jake. But humans are different. You adapt, you improvise. You find ways to make impossible. Things work. Most importantly, you inspire others to work together, even when they don't want to. Jake was confused. I don't understand. 20 years ago, my ship was attacked by rebels from 3 different species. They had worked together to set a trap, even though they normally hated each other. I wondered how they managed such cooperation. Zarlin touched her wrist device again. The hologram changed to show battle recordings from that day long ago. Later, I studied the data from my ship's sensors. I learned that a human cargo vessel had been in the area for several hours before the attack. 3 rebel ships had been following you, Admiral? Kate frowned. Following the New Horizon? Why? Because wherever humans go, different species start working together. You don't conquer or dominate. You trade, you negotiate, you find common ground. Even your enemies end up cooperating just to deal with you effectively. Jake remembered those days. It was true that his supply runs often brought different alien traders together. Pirates from multiple species would sometimes form temporary alliances when human ships entered their territory. But he had never thought it was important. The Galactic Council has been trying to form an alliance against the Devourers for 2 years, Zarlin continued. Every meeting ends in arguments. The reptilian clans want to fight directly. The crystalline consortium prefers defensive strategies. The Hive Collective only trusts their own kind. No one can agree on anything. Ryan was starting to understand. You think humans can get them to work together? I know you can. I have studied human military history extensively, Admiral Morrison. Your species excels at coalition warfare. You fought wars involving dozens of nations working as one force. You created international organizations that solved global problems. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. What exactly are you asking me to do? Lead a joint task force with representatives from every major civilization. Not as supreme commander, but as coordinator. Help them remember that their differences are less important than their survival. The room fell silent. Jake looked at his team, seeing doubt in their faces. Finally, Kate spoke up. Admiral, this is way beyond anything humanity has ever attempted. We're talking about galactic politics, alien military traditions we don't understand, weapons and tactics we've never seen. Jake nodded. I know, but if we don't try, the Devourers will eventually reach Earth anyway. At least this way, we have a chance to fight them before they get to our home. Zaralin reached across the table and touched Jake's hand. Will you help us, my old friend? Jake looked out the window at her fleet, then back at her hopeful face. Yes, but I'll need complete authority over tactical decisions, and every species has to agree to follow the plan, even if they don't like it. Agreed, she said immediately. And one more thing. We do this my way. No politics, no ancient grudges, no species thinking they're better than others. If we're going to win this war, everyone fights as equals. Zaralin smiled, the same grateful expression he remembered from 20 years ago. That is exactly why I knew you were the right person for this job. 3 months later, Jake stood on the bridge of his new flagship, Unity's Dawn. The ship was built specifically for the joint operation, combining technology from 5 different species. It was larger than any vessel he had ever commanded, with weapons that could level mountains and shields that could withstand starfire. But the real challenge was not the ship. It was the crew. Commander Veltar of the Ethereal Empire stood at the tactical station. He was tall and elegant, with pale blue skin and silver hair like Empress Zaralin. His people were known for their intelligence and careful planning, but they moved slowly and disliked quick decisions. General Krex represented the reptilian clans at the weapons console. He was short and muscular, with green scales and sharp teeth. His species loved to fight and trusted only strength. Krex thought all other species were weak and cowardly. Unit 7 was the synthetic representative. It looked like a human made of metal and wire, with glowing blue eyes that never blinked. The synthetics were artificial beings who valued logic above all else. Unit 7 found organic emotions confusing and wasteful. Admiral Coral Singer of the Aquarian Federation worked at the communication station. She looked like a human woman with gills and webbed fingers. Her people were peaceful and empathic, able to sense the emotions of others. A constant anger and fear from the other species made her uncomfortable. Admiral Morrison, Veltar said in his soft voice, I must protest this mission plan. Attacking the Devourer outpost at Kepler Station is too dangerous. We should wait for reinforcements. Krex hissed angrily. Wait? While the Metal Eaters destroy more worlds? Ethereals are always afraid to fight. We should attack now with everything we have. Emotional responses decrease mission success probability by 37%, Unit 7 stated. Optimal strategy requires patience and calculation. Coral Singer touched her temples, feeling the tension from everyone around her. Please, all of you, try to remain calm. Your anger is making it hard for me to focus. Jake had been dealing with arguments like this for weeks. Every decision became a debate about species superiority. The reptilians thought everyone else was too weak. The ethereals believed others were too reckless. The synthetics considered organic beings illogical. The Aquarians wanted everyone to get along, but offered no practical solutions. Enough, Jake said firmly. We're not here to prove who's better. We're here to stop the Devourers from destroying all our worlds. The bridge fell silent. Jake walked to the main display, which showed the tactical situation at Kepler Station. The Devourers had surrounded the supply depot with 50 ships. Previous attacks by single-species fleets had failed completely. Here's what we're going to do, Jake continued. Each species will contribute what they do best. Veltar, your people have the strongest shields in the galaxy. You'll protect the attack groups. The ethereal commander nodded. Our defensive matrix can withstand significant firepower. Krex, your warriors are the best fighters I've ever seen. You'll lead the direct assault on their main ships. The reptilian general smiled, showing sharp teeth. My people will tear them apart. Unit 7, your computational abilities are amazing. You'll coordinate our supply lines and manage our fleet movements. The synthetic's glowing eyes brightened. I can process 17,000 variables simultaneously. Coral Singer, your people can sense things others cannot. You'll monitor enemy communications and warn us of surprises. The Aquarian woman relaxed slightly. We will listen for changes in their patterns. Jake looked around the bridge. And humans will do what we do best. We'll adapt to whatever goes wrong, because something always goes wrong. 2 days later, they reached Kepler Station. The Devourer fleet was even larger than intelligence had reported. Black metal ships surrounded the station like a swarm of deadly insects. Each ship was different, built from pieces of destroyed vessels from multiple species. Admiral, they're scanning us, Coral Singer reported. I can sense their attention. It feels cold and hungry. All ships begin the operation, Jake ordered. The battle began exactly as planned. Ethereal ships moved forward, their blue energy shields glowing like stars. The Devourers focused their weapons on the shields, trying to break through. Behind the shields, reptilian attack ships charged toward the enemy. Krex's warriors screamed battle cries as they fired their plasma cannons. The Devourers turned to face this new threat. Unit 7 coordinated the complex dance of ships, calculating angles and timing with perfect precision. Supply vessels moved ammunition and fuel exactly where they were needed. But then everything started going wrong. The Devourers adapted faster than expected. They began using new weapons that could penetrate ethereal shields. Several reptilian ships were destroyed in the first wave. The carefully planned attack turned into chaos. Admiral, the enemy is changing tactics, Veltar reported, his voice strained. Our shields are failing. They're using our own weapons against us, Krex snarled. How is that possible? The Devourers learn and adapt within 4.7 minutes of initial contact, Unit 7 calculated. Current strategy will fail in 8 minutes. Jake watched the battle falling apart. This was the moment that separated human commanders from others. When plans failed, humans improvised. All ships, new orders, he said. Forget the plan. We're switching to chaos tactics. Admiral? Veltar sounded confused. If they adapt to our strategies, we won't use strategies. Every ship will attack independently. No patterns, no coordination, no logic. Pure random aggression. Krex laughed with delight. Now you're talking like a warrior. This violates all tactical principles, Unit 7 protested. Good, Jake replied. Coral Singer, can you help coordinate this? Feel what each captain needs and relay it to the others? The Aquarian woman closed her eyes and extended her senses. Yes, I can feel their intentions. I'll guide them. What happened next was beautiful and terrible to watch. The Alliance fleet stopped fighting like an organized force and became something wild and unpredictable. Ethereal ships used their shields to ram enemy vessels. Reptilian warriors boarded Devourer ships and fought hand-to-hand in the corridors. Synthetic vessels calculated impossible maneuvers and somehow made them work. Aquarian ships moved like they were dancing, flowing around enemy fire. The Devourers tried to adapt, but there was nothing to adapt to. Every ship was doing something different. Every attack was unique. The machine intelligence that had defeated. Organized fleets could not handle pure chaos. One by one, the Devourer ships fell. Some were destroyed by weapons, others by ramming attacks, and a few simply shut down as their systems overloaded trying to process too many different threats. When the battle ended, Kepler Station was free. The first joint victory in Galactic. History belonged to the unlikely alliance that had learned to fight together by fighting apart. Admiral Morrison, Veltar said quietly, "I have never seen anything like that. How did you know it would work?" Jake smiled tiredly. "Because sometimes the best plan is to have no plan at all. Humans learned that a long time ago." The victory at Kepler Station spread hope throughout the galaxy. For the first time, the Devourers had been defeated. Other species began volunteering to join Jake's growing fleet. 6 months after the victory at Kepler Station, Jake's Alliance fleet had grown to over 2,000 ships. Representatives from 20 different species now served under his command. But today, they faced their greatest challenge yet, the Devourer. Home base sat at the center of the galaxy, protected by millions of enemy ships. Intelligence reports showed they were building a weapon that could destroy entire star systems in minutes. If that weapon became operational, no world would be safe. Jake stood in the war room aboard Unity's Dawn, surrounded by commanders from across the galaxy. The holographic display showed the impossible odds they faced. The Devourer fleet was so large it blocked out the stars. "This is madness," said General Krex, his scales dark with worry. "Even my warriors cannot fight 1,000,000 ships." Commander Veltar studied the tactical data with sad eyes. "Our combined fleets number barely 3,000 vessels. The mathematics are hopeless." Unit 7's metal face showed no emotion, but its voice carried unusual uncertainty. "Success probability is 0.01%. This mission cannot be completed." Admiral Coral Singer felt the fear and despair from everyone in the room. "The crews are losing hope, Admiral Morrison. Many captains want to retreat and defend their home worlds instead." Jake looked around the room at faces from a dozen different species. These beings had followed him across the galaxy, trusting his leadership. Now they were asking him to lead them into certain death. "I know the odds," Jake said quietly. "I know most of us probably won't survive this battle. But I also know what happens if we don't try." He touched the holographic controls, and the display changed to show recordings from destroyed worlds. Dead planets orbited cold stars, their surfaces stripped bare of all life. "This is what the Devourers do," Jake continued. "They don't just kill people. They erase entire civilizations from existence. Every story, every song, every memory of billions of lives gone forever." Commander Veltar's voice was barely a whisper. "Perhaps we should surrender. Maybe they will show mercy." "They don't understand mercy," Jake replied. "They only understand consumption. But we understand something they never will." He changed the display again, showing images from all their home worlds. Earth's blue oceans and green continents, the crystal cities of the ethereal empire, the volcanic forges of the reptilian clans, the floating gardens of the Aquarian Federation, the geometric perfection of synthetic worlds. "We understand what's worth fighting for," Jake said. Not just our own species, but all of us together. The Devourers see life as something to consume. We see it as something to protect. Krex raised his head, fire returning to his eyes. You speak like a warrior, human, but how do we fight so many ships? Jake smiled for the first time in days. The same way we won at Kepler Station. We do something they don't expect. He activated a new display showing the Devourer weapon. It was a massive structure built into an asteroid, with energy conduits connecting millions of ships. They're using their entire fleet as a power source for the weapon. Every ship is connected to the main reactor. That connection makes them stronger, but it also makes them vulnerable. Unit 7 processed the information instantly. If the central reactor is destroyed, the feedback will cascade through the entire network. Exactly. But someone has to get inside that facility and trigger the cascade manually. The automated systems won't work because of the interference. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what Jake was saying. It was a suicide mission. I'll go, Jake said simply. One modified ship, minimal crew. We slip through their defenses. While you keep them distracted. No, said Veltar firmly. You are needed to command the fleet. My warriors will go, Krex declared. We fear no death in battle. I can calculate the most efficient approach, Unit 7 offered. We should all go together, Coral Singer suggested. Jake felt warmth in his chest, looking at these beings who had become his friends. Thank you, all of you. But this is something I have to do. The final battle began 3 days later. The Alliance fleet attacked from 12 different directions, using every tactic Jake had taught them. They fought with courage that amazed even themselves. Ethereal ships channeled their life energy into massive shields that held back enemy fire. Reptilian warriors flew their ships directly into Devourer formations, fighting hand-to-hand in the offend. Void of space. Synthetic vessels calculated impossible maneuvers and made them look easy. Aquarian commanders coordinated the chaotic battle by feeling the emotions of thousands of pilots. While the galaxy's greatest battle raged around them, Jake flew a small modified ship toward the Devourer weapon. His crew was tiny, Lisa Hamilton. From his old cargo ship days, Tony Rodriguez, who had never stopped being nervous, and Dr. Amanda Foster, who had first treated Princess Zarelyn 20 years ago. Just like old times, Lisa said as they dodged between massive enemy ships. Except for the certain death part, Tony added, but he was smiling. They reached the weapon facility and found the reactor core. It was beautiful and terrible, a sphere of pure energy that could power 1,000 worlds or destroy them. Jake began the shutdown sequence, knowing it would take several minutes to complete. Admiral, came Empress Zarelyn's voice over the radio. My ships are in position to extract you. Negative, Jake replied. Someone needs to stay and make sure this works. The reactor began to overload. Jake watched the countdown timer, thinking about the life he had lived. A cargo captain who became an admiral. A simple rescue that saved the galaxy. Jake, Zarelyn's voice was soft with tears. Thank you for showing us what it means to be human. The explosion was visible from every ship in the battle. The Devourer weapon tore itself apart, and the energy cascade destroyed their entire fleet in seconds. The threat that had terrified the galaxy was gone. Jake survived, somehow. The explosion had thrown his ship clear at the last moment, damaged but intact. When he woke up in the medical bay, Empress Zarelyn was sitting beside his bed, just like 20 years ago. Did we win? He asked. She smiled through her tears. We won. The galaxy is safe. Years later, they built a memorial at the battle site. Species from across the galaxy came to honor those who died saving the stars. Jake and Zarelyn stood before the monument, older now, but still friends. Do you ever regret that day when you rescued me? she asked. Jake looked at the memorial, thinking of all the lives saved because one cargo captain decided to help a stranger. Never. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness have the biggest consequences. The memorial bore words in every galactic language. They remembered what it means to be human and taught the galaxy to remember too.